go. There we go, dude. There we go, buddy. Not too shabby. Not too shabby at all, guys. A little largemouth right off the rip like that. Let's go ahead and hold this location. It was a little bit deeper than I expected. Not nearly as shallow, but damn. Well, HH Customs does it again. Thank you, Palomino. Excellent. Not too bad of a fish either. I'll bet you he'd make the slot. Rock and roll. And this is that same HH Customs I was using the entire week of the scavenger hunt open. So, okay, all right. Maybe the clouds and that little chop on the water is doing its job. Let's keep at them. Oh. There we go. There we go. How do we do here? Nice. This is the first one on a juvie craw right here. Look at that. So that's an interesting, still no for sure pattern on this guy. Come on, buddy. There we go. Not a terrible fish. I mean, might make the slot if I was doing a slot limit tournament, but healthy looking fish, that's for sure. You know? But yeah, look at that tail. Like nothing going on with the tail. I have no idea. It was right over by that boat. So this guy was much more shallow than the last one. Who knows? Who knows? But look at this bait right here. So this is a bait by Great Northern Finesse, or I'm sorry, Great Lakes Finesse. And Great Lakes Finesse is a cool company that recently went through like one of these corporate acquisitions, so there's much more distribution than they ever had before. But they make these really cool like matte plastics. This one is called the Juvie Craw, and it's like a small tube, but it's a super hyper realistic craw imitation. And I had a little bit of a bite. I set the hook on like nothing. I'm sure you guys saw that. And then we managed to get it in the boat. So that's two different baits, two totally different patterns. I'm going to continue fishing shallow around some docks and see if I can't pick any more up on this. It's going to be a little bit slower, but hey, man, I'm getting bit. I'm not about to complain about that. How we doing?
Morning.
Morning.
Doing? I'll try and start with the police department. You have a quick minute for a safety inspection?
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything's honored system. I just want to get you thinking about safety.
Yeah, for sure. And this is the weekend.
Registered?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
You have a flotation device on that board for yourself?
Multiples and a throwable.
And a throwable? Okay.
Yep.
You have a rope also?
I do have a rope right under me.
Okay, and an anchor?
Got an anchor, and the GPS anchor is the main. Yep.
Something to bail water should you need to?
Oh, yeah.
Use your hat if you needed to, right?
Yeah, oh, yeah. If the worst come to worst.
Exactly. Let's see. Fire extinguisher?
Fire extinguisher, yep.
Okay, you have an audible signaling device, a whistle?
I do, and a horn, yeah.
Okay, great. All set. Let me just jot down your information real quick.
Excellent, sure thing. Oh my goodness, slow day.
Is it? Yeah?
Yeah, well, that weather didn't help.
Yeah.
You know?
Filled right up, I'm sure. What's your... Sir, thank you very much.
Awesome, thank you. Have a great one.
Yeah, you too.
Appreciate you. There we go. Small jaw. A smallmouth right there. Small one. Still a smallie. And I'm not mad at that. So that's two. That's two fish on the finesse bladed jig. The HH Customs Koosh Ball bladed jig. So I'm not mad at that. We're going to release this guy. He was crazy shallow. The other guy that I caught was a little bit further deep. So I'm finding them at different depths. And I'm finding both. I'm finding at least smallmouth and largemouth up shallow. And some largemouth out a little bit deeper. I also see these fish that are hitting the surface every once in a while, and I'm not sure if there's a carp population in here, and that's what, you know, is happening, but I don't know. They seem to be very active and not interested at all in whatever I throw on them. So that's two for the juvie craw, super shallow, or one for the juvie craw, excuse me, super shallow, and two now for the HH Customs Koosh Ball bladed jig. So let's keep going, man. You know, two fish as a pattern. We're gonna throw this, and then our follow-up is gonna be that juvie craw. You know. That was definitely a bite there. That was definitely a bite right there. Oh, that was a good fish. That's a good fish, buddy. That is definitely a much better fish, dude. Oh, fuck you. That's a much better fish right there. Look at that. That's on a juvie craw. Big rock flat right here. Oh, yeah, this is a good fish. We're going to measure him. We're just 16 and a half. Buddy, that's a good fish. First quality one on a juvie craw. Look at that. That's badass. So we're out here, and I'm fishing this rock flat. And I decided I would slow down and pick apart some of these rocks and throw a juvie craw. And then boom, 16 and a half inch smallie. Great fish. We'll go ahead and release him. All right, bud, we're going to release you right on the same side you came out from. So I appreciate you. Thanks for playing, homie. This is the best smallie I've ever caught out of here. Rock and roll. You know, like a complete dipshit asshole, I forgot to start the camera recording again after that last clip, but my next cast out in that same area, nowhere near as big as that smallie I just caught, but damn, son, we out here. That juvie craw is just doing it. Let's keep going. And that's what it was, man. This rock flat, man. I'm gonna lock it right here, man, and just see what we got. I mean, do we have? That might have been the biggest largemouth I put in here. That was actually a really great bite overall, but this is just, I want to speak to the fact that I'm using the juvie craw for a specific type of fishing. I am fishing this rock flat, trying to cast up around some of these larger boulders and just kind of creep this craw around. It's a super subtle presentation. Like, Stupid subtle presentation. It's tiny. It's got a good heavy hook on this jig, which is nice. And the bladed jig I'm using to essentially call fish out from under docks, things like that. But I'm just over here casting around where all of these big rocks are. And I'm letting this get on the bottom, and I'm just kind of popping it around. We get around those other big boulders, like, yes, it does get hung up with that open hook. The trick to it is to make sure, like right there I got hung up, don't set the hook so hard into it. There we go. Free it up. Zing it. We'll put a cast. Got some grass on here? Yeah, we do. Snot grass. Well, this is a little bit deeper water right here. We've kind of drifted off of that. And on that juvie craw, I'm throwing this on my Majestic XT. This is a light power rod. It's pretty fast, and there we go. There's another one right there. Oh, what's this guy here? It's another largemouth. It's another largemouth, man. Nice job. Corner of the mouth right where we want them. Look at that. That's fish number 6. Dude. I think I need to crack a Diet Coke to celebrate this a little bit here. Come on, buddy. There we go. Come on. Come on. There we go. Look at that. Nice little chunky largemouth. This guy would 100% do for the slot limit tournament too. That might be something I want to consider. You know, I've got options. I really, really do have some options, and it's coming up next weekend, the slot limit tournament. In fact, we should talk about the slot limit tournament. I think that's a good idea. Another one. DJ Khaled. Another one. Number 7 right here. I was just about to start recording to talk about the slot limit tournament series that's going on, and I made a cast, just not even thinking, and then boom, hooked up with this one. I'm going to stop the camera. I'm going to set it so that we can just have a conversation. I'm going to record one big clip for the rest of this. But man, number 7, let's fucking go. Boom. So let's talk. Coming up next weekend on May 31st is the second Jigs and Bigs Bass Tournament Slot Limit Series. We used to do these once, and then eventually we did twice a year. And the demand has been pretty crazy for them. Like, a lot of you guys have been asking for us to do more of these. And the feedback after the last one in April was amazing. So I decided I was going to do one each and every month. We pick a date, some Saturday. We'll do a nationwide. I say nationwide. Keep in mind, this does include Canada and Mexico, if anybody is in those countries. And it's all about catching as many fish that fit the slot as you can. Catch them all. Catch as many fish that fit that 12 to 17-inch slot as possible. And we do this so that we can level the playing field. You know, so you have an angler in, you know, Massachusetts, where I am right now, but they can compete and feel like they've got a chance up against somebody who's in Texas, Louisiana, Florida, California, some of these really big fish states. There's no lunker, there's nothing like that. It's quite literally going and catching average size fish, but just go and try to catch as many of them as you possibly can get. And that's all black bass species. Largemouth, smallmouth, spots, all of them. Now, we've been averaging, you know, I think, actually it's been fluctuating a little bit. We had a huge turnout last October. The kickoff, this one, I think we had about a dozen anglers. And realistically, for this to maintain keeping going, like, we really need to see turnouts of about like 25 plus. You know, I mean, this is something that's happening all around the country, and you know, the folks know about it. It's a CPR tournament. It's all online. It all happens on Fishing Chaos. You know, you've got to use a catch board in order to snap a picture of your fish, and you know, it's the rules are pretty simple. You measure a fish that's between 12 inches as the minimum, and the maximum being 17 inches, and you enter those, and the total amount of inches is what adds up. So I recommend you guys check it out. You can go to jigsandbigs.com. The slot limit series that is like the next one to register for will be the one that's available for you to check out, and it's a good time. We have a whole lot of fun with it. It's very lighthearted. There's no, you know, we understand that the folks that listen to the podcast, the folks that subscribe to the Jigs and Bigs YouTube channel, the folks that follow American Vet Fishing and all that, you guys are awesome, but you're all over the damn country, and we want to be able to engage with you, and this is a good way to be able to do it. And if you're not necessarily big on the multi-species fishing necessarily, and that's not really your thing, but you love the bass fish, this could be right up your alley. So I recommend you go ahead, check it out. It's on jigsandbigs.com. It all happens through Fishing Chaos. We'll have links there. You can go ahead and subscribe, or go ahead and register. I think it's a $40 buy-in for these. And the payout structure increases the more people that we have. So, you know, we pay out the top two up until I think we get to 20. And then after that, we start to add more payout spots. And, you know, then that's where things can kind of start to get really exciting. There we go. That felt 100% like a genuine bite. And then it let go. And I pulled so much fucking drag there. God. Was it a turtle? And would it fucking let it go? How is that a possibility? There we go. There we go. Got a fish there. Decent one. Decent one. Right back in. You saw it, though. You saw that shit. Crazy. Crazy. So that's number 8. Got him out of the water. I'm going to count that. Just because that was 100% a bite. That was a real legitimate bite. You know, and I'm not mad at that, man. I'm okay with that. So the way you put these together, let's show you how to rig them. You kind of have to rig it onto the jig before you tie it onto the line. So we're going to take our juvie craw. And these are a specialty jig head. It's a mini tube head is what they call it. But it's got a crazy heavy hook. Take a look at that. It's a great hook. And all you do is you just thread it up and through inside the tube all the way to the end. And you'll see it start to make a sort of a little bump up at the top. And you just pull that back and it'll pop right through. Just like that. Now what I like to do is take the face of that craw just a little bit. And I like to actually run my hook right between the eyes, the hook point, and then thread it down. And the reason I like to do that is because it holds it right in place so it can't move. It'll stay right there. Doesn't mess up your hookup ratio, anything like that, but it holds it so that it doesn't get off of the mark, and then when it drops it doesn't, you know, start to go all crazy on you. Cattywampus, some might say. Now the last step for me is to take our spike it marker, a little bit of chartreuse, and I want to put that on the tips of these claws. Just kind of paint those with a little bit of chartreuse just to get some attention. On one side, on the other side, and I do both sides, the front and the back. And the reason why I do this is because, especially where we are right now, there's a little bit of depth. And just a little something to draw and make it look, maybe make it seem a little bit more natural looking. Give it a little bit more depth instead of just one flat color. So we'll go ahead, we'll send it, we'll see what we got. A lot of people ask questions. We get this question a lot, and I think it's got to do with the name of the podcast. People always ask, oh, how do I fish a jig? You guys are jigs and bigs. How do we fish a jig? You know, fishing a jig is really, really simple. I say that because on principle, whether you're fishing a big old skirted bass jig or you're fishing a tube, essentially like this, or you're fishing a Ned rig, hell, even a Texas rig, like where you're fishing it on the bottom, it's essentially the same idea. You're fishing a little bit slower than you would, like you're not swimming it. That's not to say that you can't get bit swimming a jig. But what you're doing is you're essentially making a cast to something that's targeted. And you're allowing that bait to settle on the bottom. And then you're moving it along on the bottom based on whatever cadence, you know, the fish are responding to. Sometimes it's just dragging it really slow, you know, keeping as much contact on the bottom as possible. Other times, like what I'm doing today, is more hopping it. And I'm letting it hit the bottom, and I'm kind of hopping it up and then letting it fall right back down. But a lot of people, they ask, they're like, oh, I don't know how to fish a Ned rig. I don't know how to fish a jig. Or, you know, I hear that. Or, you know, what's the difference of fishing a finesse jig? Really, a jig at the core of it all is a hook with a weight that's been essentially molded to it. So the two are one piece. Whether it's got a skirt or you're just dressing it with some sort of a plastic, that's just nuance. You know, and you'll get bit on jigs on the drop. Sometimes you can throw a jig, you know, and it'll be towards some deeper water. And you'll get bit as it's falling. Same thing can happen for a Ned. Hell, on a swim bait on a jig head, if you're throwing something like that and you just let it drop, it's the same principle. The only difference is in order to get the action on that swim bait, you're swimming it back. And essentially, that's what we're dealing with here. We're dressing a hook that has a weight molded directly to it, so it's one piece. And different jigs are used for different stuff. I wouldn't throw this into a bunch of wood because of that exposed hook. I think you're asking for trouble if you're, you know, trying that. And I take for granted that people that are watching this and listening to the podcast, I take for granted that they know how to tell when their bait is on the bottom. So I think I'm going to take a minute and I'm going to show you guys. So I'm going to make a long cast right over here, right? And I have this high vis yellow line, and we're going to watch that. Hopefully you guys can see it. So it hits, and we can see that the line is moving as it's falling. The line is kind of being held above the surface. It comes to us at a certain point, and then it kind of bows up to the tip of the rod. That lets us know that that bait is falling right now. And what we're looking for is for that line, when it hits the bottom, is to do exactly what just happened there. That line relaxes down and lays down. Is I'll let it sit for a minute, and I'll watch my line. I don't want to take my eyes off of it. I'll reel up that slack a little bit after it's sat for a minute, because sometimes on that fall, when it lands, that pause will be where the bite happens sometimes. So I'll pick up that slack, and I'll just kind of either pop it or I'll drag it. Sometimes I'll rip it so it comes up far off the surface like that. I'll let it come down and pick up that slack. Pick up the slack. It helps to have a fast speed reel, so that way you can pick up the slack as quickly as you need to. But as you bring the tip down, I just reel right back down and pick up that slack. So it's essentially one motion for the most part. And this is a slower style of fishing. A lot of people hear the term jig and they know about, big jigs with heavy half-ounce jigs or three-quarter-ounce jigs, football head jigs and all of this stuff. This is, believe it or not, this is more of a finesse style of fishing. It's much more subtle. And you can change up your cadence. You can drag it a little bit, then hop it. I will give one tip when it comes to fishing a jig on the bottom, especially if you're fishing a Ned rig or a tube like this that's got an open hook. Whenever you're doing a retrieve like this and you feel yourself get hung up, keep in mind that while yes, in fact, hook sets are free, you might be in for some extra tying on of other jigs, because you can get caught up between a couple of rocks and feel that and set the hook and break off. Or, maybe you come across a stump and that jig rolls over and gets, that Ned rig hooks one of the elements on that stump. You could be in for a nice little treat of just having to retie and breaking them off. When you're in a boat or a kayak, yes, you can get around to the other side of it and hopefully try to release it. Sometimes snapping the line, grabbing like this and snapping the line can help. Now, think of it like this. I read somewhere, and this is the best way I can describe it. When you make a cast with your jig and it hits the bottom, think of it as almost like a cat toy. You're using a cat toy to try to entice a cat to play. You're teasing the fish and trying to entice them to come over and see what you have going on. Today has been pretty fantastic. I cannot complain. What did I say? 8? I think 8 fish.